Smiley is now ranked number 16 nationally and the highest rated talk show hosted by an African American on the 2025 Talkers Heavy 100 list of the most important talk radio hosts in the nation. Last year, Tavis ranked number 33, and the year before, number 45. The Tavis Smiley Show has rapidly expanded its national syndication to now include nearly 50 radio stations across the country and counting. Congratulations, Tavis.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Pick up the phone. Every time my call is going to voicemail. Don't tell me they got you on some weirdo rap shit. No socks and skinny jeans and Call me on Shanika's phone.
I've been A1 since day one, you boo-boo. Your homeboy, you block that you're from, boo-boo. Lil' what you went to school with, boo-boo. Baby mama and you knew, boo-boo. We was in the hood, 14 with the deuce. 14 years later, going hard like we used to on the dead homies. On the dead homies. I don't give a about no politics and rap money.
You are listening to the Black Pack here on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm your host, Adrianne Shropshire, and I hope I didn't get caught on the mic doing a really bad impression of Kendrick Lamar, embarrassing myself, trying to pretend that I am, in fact, K-Dot, and I am not. So we have been having a conversation this afternoon about a lot of things, but we have talked largely about free speech and the reality that we are seeing before our own eyes, the kind of suppression of speech. And so I'm really happy to be joined right now by Nora Benavides, the senior counsel in digital and director of digital justice and civil rights with the Free Press. So I want to thank you for joining us. How are you?
Oh, it's been a week.
It's
How
been
are
a week.
You? It's great to be here.
That's my answer, too.
I'm like, ooh.
I was saying with our last guest, Kieran Finney, I was like, it's been a year.
It's been like a year in this week.
In this day. I'm thinking
Yep.
Today
Yeah.
has been a whole year. But I want to thank you for joining us. I feel like we talk about free speech, and we say it all the time, but I'm hoping that you can, help us level set right now. Like when we talk about free speech, what is that exactly, right? And what is it that the Constitution actually protects? And what doesn't it protect?
Yeah. I mean, free speech is not a fun concept. People like the idea of it for themselves and really not for anyone else.
Right.
But the Constitution is very clear. And the First Amendment was intended to really be able to hold power to account. People should be able to come together, to talk with each other, to have ideas, to not be censored by the government for those ideas. The press should be able to report on issues that are important to communities, issues of the day. We should be able to gather and practice religion. We should be able to gather and protest and assemble. And if we feel that our rights have been violated in some way, the First Amendment should protect us in trying to yell at the government, essentially, or petition the government if we feel we've had some wrong, towards us. So it sounds, the First Amendment is a beautiful, beautiful document as part of the Bill of Rights, but in practice, it's really messy. And we have been trying for 200 years to refine it. You and I were never intended as individuals to be included in what the Constitution would have said, for First Amendment rights.
Right.
And that's been the beauty of it, is like, how do we expand what's possible?
Right.
I think, it's obvious that we're looking at contracting all of those rights right now, and given the week that we've had.
Yeah. And so Andy just said, what about hate speech, right? Should you just be able to say whatever hateful thing you want to say, right? Or are there limits to that, right? Does the Constitution protect people's hateful speech?
Well, the Constitution is silent on the issue of hate speech. The First Amendment does not use that phrase at all. But over many, many, many decades, the courts, our U.S. judicial system, has tried to figure out what's the line between acceptable and unacceptable speech. Mm-hmm. And it really has allowed more and more speech to be permitted. You know, burning of the U.S. flag is permitted. People having swear words on their T-shirts, permitted. But what about things that would intimidate others? And that's where I think we really get into things, that hate speech is protected speech, but not if it directly intimidates or makes people feel they are in danger. Mm-hmm. And that's what we're seeing now. We're seeing a lot of people being intimidated for their thoughts, for trying to come together, and for the basic premise that they should be allowed to exist, mainly Black and brown folks.
Yeah, and the kind of like crowdsourcing of that, right? So when we think about, I mean, I'm not on X anymore, so I only hear the horror stories of what goes on over in that place. But that's why I feel like that's where it is. You know, and we were, talking earlier about like, sure, you have a right to your opinion, and I guess you can say whatever you want to say. Doesn't mean that we have to like it, right? And it also doesn't mean that we have to treat it as legitimate, sort of debate, right? And that's, a little bit of the conversation we were having earlier about, just thinking about the voices that are being silenced right now for actually just speaking truth or saying things that are fact, right? Not sort of going over the line, right? But just saying things that are truthful, and or quoting people directly, right? And being canceled and silenced because of that.
Absolutely. And I think what you're really describing is the hypocrisy of the moment. Yeah. That people, mostly on the right, have clung to this concept of the First Amendment, and that their feelings have been hurt for many years when people don't like what they say. Right. And the moment that now those in power, and mostly MAGA supporters, have put forward a set of really disgusting misogynistic values and principles, when anyone else dares to call that out, that quote, like us quoting that, any single person will then be trotted out and doxxed or harassed. Right. And it's created a very warped sense of what free speech and the First Amendment mean, antithetical to the text or the spirit of it. And it's really sad. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. When we come forward, I want to get into some of the things that we've seen happen this week. So when we continue this conversation with Nora Benavides from the Free Press, we will pull out some examples of what that looks like and what it has meant over this last very long week. This is KBLA Talk 1580. Stay with us.
You're part of the Black Pack with Adrianne Shropshire on KBLA Talk 1580.
As we get older, we may feel strong and healthy, but no matter how healthy you feel, your immune system weakens with age. That's where vaccines come in. Vaccines help train and strengthen your immune response to fight off certain respiratory illnesses. And that's why the CDC recommends eligible adults 50 or older or those with certain health conditions get vaccinated. Ask your doctor or pharmacist which vaccines you need. Schedule in minutes at vaxassist.com. Sponsored by Pfizer.
Dude, did you order the new iPhone 17 Pro? Got it from Verizon, the best 5G network in America. I never looked so good.
You look the same.
But with this camera, everything looks better, especially me.
You haven't changed your hair in 15 years. Selfies? Check, please.
New and existing customers can get the new iPhone 17 Pro, designed to be the most powerful iPhone ever, with eligible phone trade-in and unlimited ultimate. Any condition guaranteed. Best 5G source root metrics data, United States, 1H 2025. All rights reserved. Trade-in and additional terms apply for all offers. See Verizon.com for details.
With a KBLA Talk 1580 editorial, I'm Dr. Nicolai Corte. Let's preserve Black land stories before they're lost forever. I want to personally invite you to be a part of something historic. As journalist in residence for the Black Land Lost Narrative Archive Project, I've joined forces with powerhouse attorney and social justice champion George Fothery, the man who helped make history by delivering justice to the Bruce family in Manhattan Beach, securing the first known return of land unjustly taken from black owners by a local government. That victory was monumental, but it was just the beginning. For generations, black families have acquired land through grit, faith, and determination, only to lose it through violence, legal loopholes, forced sales, and systematic racism. What's been taken goes far beyond dirt and deeds. It's the erasure of wealth, identity, and legacy. That's why we've launched the Black Land Loss Narrative Archive Project, a national effort to collect, protect, and preserve the stories of black land loss before they're buried, forgotten, or erased altogether. Because there's power in telling black stories, there is resistance in remembering, and there's justice in being seen and heard. This is where you come in. We're inviting you to be a part of this historic black narrative archive. If you or someone you know has experienced land loss, displacement, or forced property sales, your story deserves to be heard and remembered. Your story belongs in this archive. Your truth matters not just to your family, but to our collective future. Visit blacklandloss.org today. Fill out our simple intake form and add your voice to the National Archive of Remembrance, Resilience, and Reckoning. Let's make these stories live on, not in whispers, but on the record. With a KBLA Talk 1580 editorial, I'm Dr. Nicolai Corte, and as always, we welcome your feedback.
Let's get back to more of the Black Pack with Adrianne Shropshire right now on KBLA Talk 1580.
We are continuing our conversation with Nora Benavidez, the Senior Counsel and Director of Digital Justice and Civil Rights at Free Press. So, Nora, one of the very first executive orders passed by this administration claimed to protect against government censorship. But this week, we watched as the FCC chair intervened around Jimmy Kimmel's monologue on his late night show that led to him being indefinitely suspended, right? So the FCC chair, or presumably the administration, heard something that they didn't like that Jimmy Kimmel said. The FCC chair intervenes. Jimmy Kimmel gets suspended for saying something that the government doesn't like. Why is this a problem?
Well, this environment that really Trump created is one that disallows any narratives other than those he approves of. Mm-hmm. You know, he's had a very long history of doing this kind of thing, but it has been so exaggerated in the last many months. During his first administration, it started where he would remove journalists from press briefings if he didn't like their questions.
Yes.
And that feels quaint, honestly. Like when I think about him saying the media is the enemy of the people in 2017, and now he's using agencies that should be independent agencies outside of the executive and president authority. He is using those agencies to go after independent speech, whether it's corporate speech, independent journalists, you name it. This entire environment is intended to silence and chill anyone who would critique him or just like call into question what's happening. Like it's not even a veiled critique or even an adjacent critique. It's anyone who might have another kind of independent thought. And that's how authoritarian starts. Like authoritarian takeovers really do not have to go after every single person for every single thought. You just have to scare enough folks. You know, he had Stephen Colbert, then he had Jimmy Kimmel. Now he's going after broadcast licenses. He's already trying to deport individual reporters who are, trying to cover issues of the day. It's permeating every aspect.
Well, I think I'm really glad that you sort of went through that list, because I think that I'd said earlier, like, we have to be careful about looking at each of these things as happening in they're isolated incidents, right? Because they really are not. I had completely forgotten about his comment about the reporter who asked him a question that he didn't like and asked him what country he was from, right? There's also this sort of, like I was mentioning earlier, I was reading from actually Timothy Snyder's little booklet on tyranny, and remembered that the first time I mentioned that book on the show, I was talking about, the very first lesson, right, which is do not obey in advance. When we think about what we're seeing, right, whether it's academic institutions or it's media organizations, right? We know that Karen Attiah, we were talking about this earlier, Karen Attiah, columnist at the Washington Post, just got fired this week as well. How does complying in advance or obeying in advance really undermine, right, our understanding of what freedom of speech and freedom of expression should be, when we have institutions who are bastions of that, or actually the press, right, being the fourth pillar of democracy, right, when we see, folks just crumbling, right, with almost little pressure, right? Some of it's significant, right, but some of it's little pressure. What does that mean in terms of our understanding of what it means to be able to have free speech when the institutions themselves capitulate?
Well, for communities, if we were powerless, authoritarian forces would not try so ardently to quash and silence us. And that really means that our voices are our superpower. But we so often feel that the First Amendment is for, the KKK, because that's how the phrase became so popular through, the ACLU representing KKK members in Illinois, decades ago.
Right.
But what we need to remember is the way that the civil rights movement used free speech to spread a movement throughout the country and the world, the way that representation and visibility are themselves aspects of free speech. When Black bodies and images of Black people are removed from museums, which is another thing that the Trump administration is doing, when they defund Hispanic colleges or research about Native Americans, all of that flows from an interest in silencing and removing us from public life.
Right.
All the more reason that we have to fight back and say our voices are our superpower. We are not powerless. And when we use our voices together, it is the only solution. I think there's kind of almost a psychology that people inevitably feel like, if I don't make noise and if I don't get noticed, maybe I won't be affected.
Right.
And what some of the best democracy leaders around the world will tell us, who have survived authoritarian regimes, is ground you give them is ground you don't get back. And so we have to practice radical solidarity when we practice our own free speech, and when we point to and say, that person over there, if they're affected today, it could be me tomorrow. We're all together in this.
And we're seeing a lot of, I think that this is, I'm glad you make the point about the, erasure of history, right? The sort of defunding of academic institutions, particularly those that are people of color serving. But we're also seeing our courts, right? Like giving this administration the power to retaliate, right? The power to go after political opponents. We watch, or people that they just don't think should be here, right? Whatever that might mean, right? And so a couple of weeks ago, we watched the Supreme Court, right, say that that the federal government, that ICE agents had the right to racially profile, right? To openly discriminate, to look at people and say, you look like you might be a criminal because you fit a certain profile. Race, right? The ethnicity, language, right? We hear you speaking Spanish, and so therefore you must be a criminal. What are we dealing with here, right? When we now see this sort of acceptance, right, of open discrimination?
Well, it's sickening. That's where I would start, because I don't think enough people are really just naming that this is clearly white supremacism. It permeates all of these systems, and the billionaires that would control X or YouTube or the Washington Post or literally you name it, all of them have given license and freedom for disgusting views to become somehow normalized. And Trump himself uses lies as acceptable speech. But the heart of all of it comes back to really a kind of, I think, deep cynicism about people who are not white, deep desire to remove people who are trans or LGBTQ or you name it, anything that is not a clear white supremacist image and identity. Those people should be seen as unacceptable in the eyes of those in power. And it's really sickening. It's the kind of thing that when you see it, so many of us don't even believe it's happening.
Right.
But it is. And that's where the chilling effect makes it hard to mount challenges because people are afraid. And instead of speaking up and saying, wait, the last time the U.S. said, show me your papers, they then interned Japanese Americans for a long time. This isn't going well. But we get afraid, and so we kind of back up and we say, you know what, it isn't me. I'm just not going to make any noise. But it's sickening.
Yeah. That's, I mean, there, you a couple of minutes ago, you were talking about, how people can sort of move in this, what we need to do, right? How we need to be in relationship to one another. Talk a little bit more about, what people can do, what people should do, right, in this moment where there is this attempt to silence folks and erasure, I guess, just erasure of all kinds, right? Like, what are things that people can be doing? What should people be doing in this moment?
Well, first and foremost, people should be talking with each other about this. Even if it's going on a walk with a friend or when you're at dinner with a family, whatever it is, there are some real hallmarks of authoritarianism that are happening now. Donald Trump is trying to subvert reality. He's chilling the press. He's shutting down free speech, as we've talked about a lot, and capturing institutions. So if you work at a company where you feel you have any sway at all, watch for those red flags, of capitulation and name them with people. Say, wait, are we really abandoning these policies? Every time we fight back and use our voice in some way to name that, that's a positive step forward in at least fighting against the tide. Right. But I think media needs to be doing quite a bit to not back down. And we've seen some good wins when we litigate these issues. Not everyone can be a lawyer, but we've seen some good wins. California just passed a law to ban law enforcement from wearing masks.
Right. Yes.
That's great.
Right.
Lawmakers are doing a good job of stepping up to the moment in some places, and people should be calling their elected officials saying, I am done with the attacks on free speech. You have to do something.
Right.
Politicians, they should be using their conscience. That's sort of the last thing I'll say, that it isn't like we should wait for the moment where we feel like we can take action. We have to take action first.
Yeah.
We have to move forward. We have to come together. And my number one call for everyone is to imagine what solidarity can look like, because we still have a chance of getting out of this.
I just picked up the Timothy Snyder's On Tyranny again and opened up to the table, because as you were talking, I thought, wait a minute, I think he says something about this too, right? He talks about engaging, right? He says, make eye contact and small talk. That's sort of your talk to people about it, engage people, right? Have the conversations and have conversations with people that you're comfortable having. It doesn't mean it's not, again, I'm not, no one needs to amplify this debate me bro, environment, right? But have conversations. So he says, make eye contact and small talk. He says, establish a private life. And this is about resilience, right? And finding resilience and strength in community, right, in this moment where, you talked about earlier we know, so this is how authoritarianism happens, right? Or this is how authoritarians will behave. And I keep coming back to the reality that, we're not seeing authoritarianism coming, right? It is actually here. Right. And so there is this question about how do we respond then when we are looking at a government that is increasingly every day more and more authoritarian, not leading toward it, but actually just that. But yeah, your point about, talk to each other, engage one another, build community, I think is incredibly helpful.
Well, people are so politically alienated. We had COVID and we drew inwards. We went, literally we were in our homes. People didn't get to hug each other. They didn't get to do all the normal things. Right. And alongside that, we've seen this data sphere, of disinformation, lies, hate, just reaching such a fever pitch that, we can't have any kind of real dialogue with people that we don't know. People become incredibly toxic online, and most people, when they feel politically alienated and when they even feel that maybe others are evil or unknown to them, those are all the conditions that lead to political violence. And then we saw that last week. We saw with the Charlie Kirk assassination and the very disgusting weaponization that Trump used that for to divide us even further, saying that this was, you know, a certain party to blame and a certain group to blame. You know, that's not the time for blame. That's a time where people are deeply traumatized. But instead, platforms pushed it on our feeds so that we all saw the disgusting violence. And we have to, I think, resist that kind of alienation and malaise. And I think Timothy's, you know, book is amazing on tyranny. Absolutely, we have to see each other, make eye contact, like literally the things that would break down those moments of apathy or you know, inability for us to connect. We have to fight the urge to disconnect.
Yeah, and there are plenty of opportunities, I think, for people to, again, there's, you talked about, you know, engaging your representatives, right? Both when we want them to do things or we, you know, like they've done something that we do not think is right, but also when they do something that is right? You talked about the California's new law around law enforcement not being able to wear masks. That's a good thing. Call your representative and say thank you for voting for that, right? And also, can you do these other things? But we're always encouraging people to engage with their elected leaders and to take part in actions that when they come up. We know that there's another massive No Kings rally coming up soon, right? And the next month. And so, you know, engage in those, like demonstrate, take the opportunity to demonstrate your discontent, right? To say publicly and physically, like, I don't consent to our nation going down this road. And I think it's all the things that you said. I think we're really, I think, helpful for folks who are, you know, it's a struggle. We do feel isolated, and we do try and, you know, lots of people, we all, right, are trying to figure out, what do we do? How do we act? How do we engage in this moment? And building community is one of the ones that I know that we're always trying to put out there. So I want to thank you, Nora, for joining and having this conversation and helping us understand what free speech is and isn't in the way that it is being taken from us, and also what we can do to sort of, you know, push back against that. So Nora Benavide is the Senior Counsel and Director of Digital Justice and Civil Rights at Free Press. Thank you so much for joining. When we come forward, we're going to talk a little bit more about this erasure of Black history and what that means. So stay with us. This is KBLA Talk 1580. You're listening to the Black Pack.
More of the Black Pack with Adrianne Shropshire on KBLA Talk 1580 when we come forward.
I'm Amber Payton with BIN News Now. Black Washington, D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser told Congress crime is dropping thanks to local policies and President Trump's emergency order federalizing police. Lawmakers praised her on recent violent crimes, including the fatal shooting of a congressional intern. 2 Black college students have been disciplined over remarks about the death of conservative activist Charlie Kirk, who was shot and killed in Utah. At Texas Tech, 1 student disrupted a vigil with taunts, while at Texas State, another mocked Kirk during a memorial. Both have since been disenrolled after Governor Greg Abbott urged schools to take action. And HBCU Morgan State University is tightening homecoming safety after repeated incidents since 2021. All on-campus events will end by 5 p.m. with access limited to residents and essential staff. Academic buildings and offices will close at 3 p.m. and amplified music must stop by 5. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Santa Monica slowing on the 10 eastbound, delays backing up from just about 20th Street. It's a tough drive across Mid-City all the way to the 5 in Boyle Heights. Calabasas, South 101, delays getting away from Lost Hills as you make your way all the way to the 170, 134 split. Delays in Hollywood from Sunset into downtown Los Angeles. And it's really tough right now on that 210 eastbound. Delays in Pasadena leaving Sierra Madre, but that slow drive continues all the way to Foothill Boulevard. More slow slowing in Upland from Baseline all the way to the 15 freeway.
Do you really know what's in your tap water? LifeSource believes your water should support your health, not work against it. Upgrade your water with a LifeSource Whole House Water System during September's Double Dip promo. Call 800-WATER-99 or visit lifesourcewater.com.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
Undefeated USC is ranked at the bottom of this week's top 25 college football rankings. At number 25, the 3-0 Trojans have a very good opportunity to move up in the rankings if they beat Michigan State Saturday night at the Coliseum. 8 p.m. kickoff on Fox. The top HBCU football game tomorrow, Hampton at Howard in D.C. It's the annual battle to determine the real HU. At the moment, it's Hampton. Howard has lost their last 8 games to Hampton. 1 p.m. kickoff tomorrow Pacific time. Tomorrow night at 7 here on KBLA. Join me and my co-host Neil Scarborough for Out of Bounds. 60 minutes of sports chatter with some flavor. Lon Murray of The Athletic will be with us to break down what's going on with the Clippers and those salary cap allegations surrounding Kawhi Leonard. You're welcome to join the conversation at 1-800-920-1580. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
Break out the champagne. Everybody get a glass.
Tavis Smiley is now ranked number 16 nationally and the highest rated talk show hosted by an African American on the 2025 Talkers Heavy 100 list of the most important talk radio hosts in the nation. Last year, Tavis ranked number 33 and the year before, number 45. The Tavis Smiley Show has rapidly expanded its national syndication to now include nearly 50 radio stations across the country and counting. Congratulations, Tavis.
Yay! Hi, I'm LA City Councilmember Curran Price, inviting you to the 30th anniversary of the Central Avenue Jazz Festival, Saturday, September the 20th, from 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. We've got 4 pavilions, 3 stages of live music, plus food, fun, and a marketplace all along historic Central Avenue between MLK Boulevard and Vernon Ave. Our featured acts this year are Gregory Porter, Pancho Sanchez, and Jasmine Horn at the 30th anniversary of the Central Avenue Jazz Festival, Saturday, September 20th, 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. along Central Avenue between MLK Boulevard and Vernon Avenue. Come out and bring the whole family because this legendary celebration is free. For more information, go to centralavjazzfest.com. I'm LA Councilmember Curran Price, and I absolutely approve this message.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580 reminds you, when we fight, we win. The Youth Justice Coalition is challenging America's addiction to incarceration and discrimination. YJC works to dismantle policies leading to mass incarceration, law enforcement violence, and the school-to-prison pipeline. Their approach, transformative justice, community intervention, free LA high school, legal defense, and system monitoring. YJC promotes safety without relying on prisons. Their goal, prevent system contact and help people exit the system through direct action, advocacy, and education. Want to get involved or need help? Call 323-235-4243. That's 323-235-4243. Join YJC in creating change. When we fight, we win. KBLA Talk 1580, your voice for justice. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Hey there, Los Angeles. This is James Lucky Jr., publisher and editor of Los Angeles News Observer. Are you hungry for news that matters to you in the African-American communities of Los Angeles? Well, buckle up, because we got the scoop you've been craving. Stay in the know and never miss a beat with our free weekly publications conveniently available near you. Or hop on the digital wave and become an exclusive subscriber at OGNSC.com. Don't forget to join the party on Instagram and Twitter at OGNSCINC for behind-the-scenes access and sizzling updates. No more FOMO. Let's stay informed, connected, and empowered together.
You're inside the Black Pack with Adrianne Shropshire on KBLA Talk 1580.
This is the Black Pack, and I am your host, Adrianne Shropshire. Joining us now is Crystal Good, the founder and publisher of Black by God, the West Virginian. Welcome back, Crystal.
Oh, thank you. Hello, Adrienne. How are you?
I'm well. We're fine.
Yeah, I know. I don't even know why we asked.
I know.
Let's just keep it moving.
Just keep it moving. So I want to remind folks, so you run Black by God, a Black news outlet that is based in West Virginia. We have been talking on today's show. We've been talking, I feel like almost every other show we talk about the erasure of Black history in all its forms, right? But this week we saw West Virginia in the news after the Trump administration began removing signs and exhibits referring to slavery from national parks, including Harper's Ferry National Park. Can you talk to us about the history of Harper's Ferry and why it is important when we think about a place that holds Black history?
Absolutely. It's interesting. That's why Black by God exists. And I just want your readers to know Black by God isn't necessarily a religious term. In West Virginia, we like to say we are West by God, Virginia, so people don't get us confused with the other Virginia, right? And so I named my publication Black by God to claim that Black history inside of Appalachia, inside of West Virginia, because it has already been erased, right? And now when people don't think of West Virginia, they don't think of the foundation, right, of the NAACP in Harper's Ferry, West Virginia, right? They don't think about Storer College, right, which has educated some of the most brilliant minds, right? They don't think about the Lovett Hotel, right, which entertained some of the great minds from Frederick Douglass on and on. I mean, the history, the Black history in Harper's Ferry is so rich and so deep, and it goes way beyond John Brown. But that, to me, is really where I'm curious, Adrienne. I know you asked the questions, but I'm curious, right, because being in West Virginia, a state that is 90% white, and let's just go ahead and say 100% Republican, right? And for some reason, somehow, this little independent newspaper, Black by God, has existed since 2020, right? And I think the key here is we're independent. We depend on other folks, and that's how Black media has always existed. But when I put my opinion cap on, I start to think about taking these signs down from Harper's Ferry is not just erasing Black history, it's erasing the history from white people to consider and think about John Brown and the role that he played in ending slavery. And, a little fun fact, which I'm just, excited to share with you, the great Dick Gregory, the great legend, comedian, civil rights activist, right? Every October 12th, which we're coming up upon, his birthday, he would take a train to Harper's Ferry, right, to pay homage to John Brown, to pay homage to that land. I don't even know how long he did that, right? Decades, right? From D.C., October 12th. Dick Gregory is going to Harper's Ferry to honor that land. And I used to leave him little notes there, and we had our little Twitter connection. But I think about that, and I think about why Dick Gregory said we need to recognize John Brown, because John Brown took his two sons with him, and he demanded freedom. He demanded it, and he hung on a tree for it. And I think that in the imaginations of white people, especially a state 90% white, if you elevate the history of John Brown, you are putting into the minds of so many people what needs to be done. And, that's just sort of my commentary on that, because it is so important. We talk about Black history, but, this is an important history for white folks. I could certainly take it, it's important for them to remember John Brown and to know that history, and there's no place in the world like Harper's Ferry, because when you're there, you see the memorials to John Brown. You understand what happened in this space, but you also see there's a very odd sign there, and I'm curious if they're going to take that one down, which is, I think, it might have been, I don't know which white lady organization put this sign up, but the sign is from a Black man that says that he was proud to stand against John Brown, right? And that historic marker stands there, and it stands there in contrast with everything that's going on. Of course, we can put two and two together about how that memorial or monument came to be. But, you know, those are the things that are going to be living in Harper's Ferry, I fear, right? And when we're talking...
No, I guess I'm not surprised, but I am kind of surprised. You know what I mean? Both that one, so I appreciate you lifting up that, you know, erasing history from Harper's Ferry is also erasing the role that white people have played in terms of bringing about liberation and freedom for Black folks in this country. And so when you erase that, just I'm gonna paraphrase what you said, when you erase that white folks have played a role, that you sort of take that away from white folks' understanding, right, of what we should be fighting for, right, and what people in the past have been willing to put on the line for someone else's freedom, right? But this piece about this particular marker that still stands, right? And I agree, it'd be interesting to see if it stays there while they're taking down the stories of you know, enslaved Black folks who fought for their freedom. That this one still stands, right? That says, I was proud of a Black man saying, I was proud to fight against a white man who was fighting for my...
Exactly.
Yeah, that's wild. And I'm sorry, I feel like I cut you off, but I was sort of like, wait, what?
No, you didn't cut me off, and you know, I wish I could do my Googles real quick so that we could, you know, read what the sign actually says. But I do remember I had the great opportunity to walk Kamal Bell through Harper's Ferry on his show, United Shades of America, a few years back, and we actually got into it didn't make the show, but we did get into a bit of a confrontation with some folks that were there, you know, contrasting this. Like, was John Brown a hero or was he a traitor? I can't tell you the times that I have been to Harper's Ferry where that exact conversation happens, and I think that's important for America, right? And if you take down those signs and you take down the conflict and the contrast, right, then, you know, of course, we're not telling the story. But, you know, I'm also deeply concerned because the Parks Service has done such an amazing job, I truly feel like, in documenting history and doing the best that they can. And when I start to see those cuts happening, I just, you know, look at West Virginia and shake my head because we are one of the poorest states in this country, right? And those tourism dollars are a lifeblood, and we're just now kind of getting on the choo-choo train of, hey, come to West Virginia. And Harper's Ferry is right up against D.C. It's right up against the wealthiest Black zip code in the United States of America. And, you know, one of the things that we're working on with Black by God is a tourism and travel book, and we're modeling it after the Green Book. So we want to tell the stories of the old Green Book, but now I'm like, oh my gosh, I've started this project and I'm trying to convince people to come to West Virginia while all this madness is going on. But, you know, it's important. It's important, and I'm excited and proud that we will be, you know, this has put a bit of a shift in our editorial content and how we were going to tell the story, because I really want to document these historic sites because, you know, I know that the archive we're building will find a way to keep it alive and for it to live, you know, on the internet, for folks to have access and a resource to. So this work feels even more important now to document these historic sites, but also for people to consider what folks did with the Green Book and don't write West Virginia off. You know,
I want to, when we come forward, I actually want to talk a little bit more about the travel guide, because I think it's really important, and I think and we can right now let people know what are those things that they can come right and learn about and see in West Virginia. So I want to give you an opportunity to talk about that when we come forward more with Crystal Good, founder and publisher of Black by God. Stay with us.
You're part of the Black Pack with Adrianne Shropshire on KBLA Talk 1580.
You're still glowing, flirting, grooving. You still got it. But your immune system weakens as you age, making it harder to fight flu, pneumococcal pneumonia, RSV, and COVID-19. Vaccines are a key part of any health routine and help strengthen your immune response. Ask your doctor or pharmacist which vaccines you need. Schedule in minutes at vaxassist.com. Sponsored by Pfizer.
Hey, listen to this. All I needed was a new starter. Got a great deal on eBay. Did it myself.
Yeah, that's cool. But how about the soft purr of an upgraded exhaust when it fits just right?
For me, it's the little things, like these new windshield wipers from eBay I installed.
From small fixes to big upgrades, eBay has all the parts you need at prices you'll love. Guaranteed to fit every time. eBay. Things people love. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply.
Attorney advertising. Prior results do not guarantee future outcomes.
Founded in Los Angeles in 1986, litigation powerhouse Quinn Emanuel has deep roots in the Los Angeles community. Since 2007, we have litigated some of the largest fires on the West Coast. We are proud to be the only AmLaw 100 firm in the country to represent wildfire victims, giving affected individuals, families, and businesses the same focus and individualized attention we devote to our Fortune 500 clients. BTI Consulting has repeatedly recognized Quinn Emanuel as among the 4 law firms in-house counsel least liked to oppose in any litigation, and we are often deemed the most feared. And after securing over $80 billion for our clients in various matters firm-wide, we understand why. If you have been affected by the recent wildfires in Altadena and the Palisades and would like to discuss your situation further, please contact wildfire support at QuinnEmanuel.com or call us at 213-443-3050. Quinn Emanuel is proud to sponsor Conversation Live Altadena Rising with James Farr on KBLA Talk 1580.
Attorney advertising. Prior results do not guarantee future outcomes.
Are you ready to be a part of the conversation that will help shape our nation's future? Get ready to join us for the Left Coast Forum, Saturday, October 25th at LA Trade Tech, where progressive voices will come together to tackle the issues that matter most to working families across Los Angeles and beyond. From economic justice to climate action, from healthcare to housing, we're bringing together the brightest minds and most passionate advocates for real solutions and real change. With workshops, 2 major keynote addresses, and a closing reception with great music and good food. It's the Left Coast Forum, where your voice matters and your ideas take action. Saturday, October 25th at LA Trade Tech. Brought to you by KBLA Talk 1580 and the LA Progressive. The future won't wait, and neither should you. Mark your calendar now to be there and be heard. Stay tuned to KBLA Talk 1580 for more details.
Let's get back to more of the Black Pack with Adrianne Shropshire right now on KBLA Talk 1580.
And we are wrapping up our conversation with Crystal Good, founder and publisher of Black by God, the West Virginian, which is a Black-led news outlet based in West Virginia. And we are talking about West Virginia because of the Trump administration's ongoing effort to erase and remove the story of enslavement in this country, particularly from our museums and now from our national parks. One of those national parks where they were removing signs and artifacts about the period of enslavement is Harper's Ferry National Park in West Virginia. And so you were just starting to talk to us, Crystal, about this touring guide, and you made a really good point about if you are taking away the reason why folks might come to West Virginia or might come to Harper's Ferry, which is to learn the history, right, of the place, to learn about John Brown, to learn about the sort of launching pad for the NAACP. It will have an economic impact, right? And so you were talking about, Black by God putting together a travel guide to help people, understand and know what's there, where to go, the sort of green book style. Talk a little bit more about that, and what are you telling folks about why they should come and what they will learn when they come?
Well, when we started this idea with my team, we really wanted to, showcase the history of the old Green Book, right? Because it really tells a story about West Virginia and the economic power that Black people had in the southern coal fields, the hotels that they owned, the venues that they owned, the musicians that came through West Virginia, and just the greatness that exists and how, folks that used the Green Book enjoyed West Virginia and they felt safe by using it. And now that feels very parallel in terms of helping people recognize not just the history that's here, but how to navigate West Virginia, because I understand that there is fears. But when you think about the history of West Virginia, I want people to think of it as a place that you need to come visit, right? You need to come touch the land where Booker T. Washington and Carter G. Woodson lived and walked and thought, right? Because when people think of West Virginia, they don't think of those great, brilliant black minds. They don't think of Martin Delaney, who was so pivotal. They don't think of Bill Withers. You know, they don't think of Henry Louis Gates. Well, maybe they do a little bit, but you know, there's so many people from West Virginia that need to be celebrated, and where they're from, there's a story. And our Green Book, or our sort of version of that, which is a travel tourism guide, I hope that we will, you know, encourage people to come visit West Virginia, pay homage to these sites. And I can certainly take you on a wonderful trip all the way from Harpers Ferry down to the southern belly of West Virginia. And I think not only will you be enchanted with the beauty of West Virginia, but you will start to feel a different space of American history and be proud of what black people had the capacity to build, but also the story of how when industry comes in, right? That's why the black folks left West Virginia. The story of John Henry is true. The machine came in, and the man lost. Right. And so that's why the genius of black folks that generations ago started getting folks out, because they understood that coal was leaving, right? But the thing is now with West Virginia, I'm doing a lot of work in agriculture through Black by God, and you know, we have such an amazing opportunity, and I want people to hear me, right? That West Virginia is one of the lowest, you know, you can buy a house, a great house here for like $100,000, you know what I'm saying? And there's property and there's opportunity in agriculture, and there's opportunity here. And just like our ancestors and forefathers did, you know, sometimes when things look worse, that creates an opportunity. And I think that as we start to look at climate, and other changes that are happening, West Virginia it presents a lot of opportunities for folks that are wanting to be climate resilient. So, you know, Adrianne, I'm a hometown girl, and I'm proud of West Virginia, and I share those stories. But you know, I certainly share the concerns, and I need folks. We all need to be supporting independent media and journalists, because I was listening earlier, and you know, your previous guest, you know, if you didn't see it, smell it, taste it, touch it, you don't know if it's real.
Right.
And if you didn't see it, smell it, taste it, touch it, and you don't know somebody that you trust that did, then we have to move with caution. And I am proud that people trust Black by God, and that, you know, they see us as a resource, and we want to continue to do that. And, you know, if you want to give us a like, a subscribe, that helps.
Well, I was about to ask. So I was about to ask. So one, first of all, you're a great ambassador for West Virginia as a whole, and certainly for Black West Virginia. I think even the stories that you've told, the names that you've called here today, I'm sure are new for folks who just don't know the history, and so I appreciate that. I'm also now I'm, you know, I often talk to guests, and I'm like, oh, I'm about to get on a plane, and this is when I was like, maybe I'll come, and maybe you'll give me a tour, and we'll do the show live. We'll do the show live from different points in West Virginia as we go along. But tell folks how they can support the work that you all are doing at Black by God.
The simplest thing is blackbygod.org. You can go subscribe to our newsletters. And you can like and follow us across social media. And I know that folks that are listening will say, oh, you know what, my grandmother is from West Virginia, or I want to know your West Virginia connection. So please reach out. Tell us, you know, your story, your West Virginia story, because they're out there. And you know why they're out there? Because West Virginia was a powerhouse, right, in the 20s, 30s, and you know, even the work that I do today, I always reach back, call it Sankofa, but I always reach back to the old black papers in West Virginia that have existed since the 1800s, right? And I know if they can do it in the 1800s, I can do it in 2025, right? And it is still the same fight, it's still the same battle, and it is a battle of information and correct information and of course solidarity. But if we are not able to look each other in the eye, and even if that means virtually, you know, but share information. This is a really life and death situation. And I'm not just talking about the next flood that comes. We're talking about this political climate that we're in, so that we know, resources and who to trust, and also how to be together, because this is not going to be easy, what we're facing, and it can feel like a lot. It can feel overwhelming, right? But telling stories, sharing information, and fact-checking and doing that is one of the best things I think that listeners and folks can do.
And so when we think about that sort of, I'm wondering how, just quickly how people are responding to West Virginia and Harpers Ferry being in the news right now. So what are people saying to you, the folks that you are around? How are folks feeling about, I think both the sort of, erasing of history, which I think to you is more than just taking the signs down, but really sort of like suppressing the history of Black West Virginia, period. But I'm wondering how folks are responding, what you heard from folks today, particularly as this piece sort of came up, and what they, what folks want to do about it, right? Is it this, sort of like we've got to, the thing that you were just saying, we've got to tell the stories, we've got to make sure that folks know these stories. Is that how people are responding Black folks are responding in West Virginia?
This is where I think, as an independent newspaper, it's a responsibility, right, to not just tell the story, but folks want to know what to do. They want to know what is the action, and that's traditionally not the role of a newspaper, but media is changing. And I can tell you that I love my readers, because when something's going on, they blow me up, right? And when this story broke about Harpers Ferry, readers were emailing, texting, calling to make sure that I knew that this had broke. But what was so interesting was that so many people were mad because the local news wasn't covering it. Now, I've been on the road, I've been traveling, I can't verify that, but I do trust my folks. And so when the local media is not covering something this significant, right? Or if they're covering it days late, and it kind of slips out. I believe there was a headline that said certain monuments would be removed, and I was like, certain? That's such an interesting language. So, I'm proud of my readers because they care and they want to know what to do. And I think that's kind of almost the crisis that we're in, is a crisis of leadership, and people want to know what to do. I don't have all the answers, but I certainly want to keep giving folks information, and I want to encourage them to, to fact check and to stay in community with each other.
Yeah, well, that's important. I think that's what we've been talking about. A little theme throughout the day today was about being in community, and sometimes that community can be community that's all the way across the country. I appreciate you coming on and talking about what's happening. One sort of a national news story, but there's also a very local dimension to it, right? That I think we would miss if we didn't have folks like you who are doing the work through Black by God, but also just being in direct communication with folks in the community. So I think it's important for us to be sharing the totality of the story, right? Not just what the national headline is. So I appreciate you one more time for coming on. I'm gonna come see you in West Virginia and get my tour.
Oh, please come on. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, because it means a lot for West Virginia, especially Black West Virginia, to be included in a national conversation. And that's very important.
No, absolutely. So I appreciate you joining us, and I appreciate all of you for listening in, helping me get through the news of the week, even though it was a lot. It is the weekend, so I hope that everyone finds an opportunity to enjoy your weekend, build community, as we've been saying throughout the whole show. And we will see you back here next Friday, 4 to 6 p.m. on KBLA Talk 1580. This is the Black Pack.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Amber Payton with BIN News Now. Black New York City Mayor Eric Adams says negative media coverage is hurting his re-election bid, blasting false reports he had to, quote, force through, end quote.
I got to just push through and forge through all of the bullshit that's being printed and reported.
Polling at just 6%, Adams urged reporters to let him campaign fairly. Former Vice President Kamala Harris is revealing in her new book